I didn't talk much about this. Maybe because I never really thought about it, or maybe because every time I did, a weird chill would crawl up my spine. Every time I thought about it, a weird chill would crawl up my spine. He just handed me this folded piece of paper out of nowhere. Said it was roommate rules. Things like no frogs allowed, as if I'd ever bring one into the room, or salt. Salt. You don't eat salt in your dorm, right? He had this habit of muttering to himself. Not just sometimes, he'd do it at night, lights off, and I'd catch fragments. He never let anyone see it. I thought it was personal or embarrassing. But I was wrong. I scanned through. Most were kids I knew from school. And then I saw my name not crossed out. She thought it was comforting. A list of people he disliked, but soon she noticed nothing special about them. Her paranoia grew stronger as she questioned why he guarded the list like a secret weapon. He stood there without flinching, not even a hint of explanation for being over her bed at 2 a.m. She stayed silent, paralyzed by his unnerving smile. No answers left to ask. She confronted him during daylight, hoping to get clarity. But he looked puzzled. He responded with calm detachment. Not angry, just confused. Was he lying? Or truly forgetful? Her dread intensified, not just of him, but the room itself. Even when he was gone, she felt watched. Then came a week later, a live garden snake on her bed. She screamed again, but the silence of his face broke her resolve. He apologized, calling it a harmless prank. But I didn't believe him. When I asked where he'd even gotten the snake, he looked confused and said, "They're everywhere." I didn't know what to say, worried he might hurt me if I got it wrong. I didn't understand how a wild animal would do that. The whole thing from finding the snake to his creepy response, it was freakier than I can describe. It started with sleep paralysis, totally unable to move. A dark mass swirling around the ceiling, like a blob, pulsing, alive or breathing. Then something a claw emerged from it, starting to scratch at the frame, reached for me. Then recoiled as if burned. I snapped awake and realized why it was so terrifying. I'd been facing the window all along. The room looked identical to the dream scene. The scratches on my bed frame, perfect match, real. My first thought, Weston did this. So I went to his bed. He was fast asleep, snoring, but I wasn't falling for it again. I curled into a ball and cried. Didn't know what else to do. The broken window, real. The ransacked room, real. The scratches, real. A few minutes later, Weston finally woke up, shocked at the mess. I thought we shared the same space, until he turned on me. He blamed me, even as his own madness took over. His voice wasn't human, and the words were alien. It was beyond anything I could explain, and suddenly, everything changed. The Ra came silent, efficient, like nothing was wrong. I woke alone, and colder than ever. The truth hit me. I wasn't just scared, something had happened. They moved me, and erased him. They didn't want me to know. Not even his name mattered anymore. My mind shut down, locking everything away like a secret too painful to recall. He haunted me, but now I choose not to remember. Every theory collapsed, leaving only the terrifying truth. Something broke through. It was impossible, but undeniable. The glass shattered without cause. It wasn't natural, and it happened too quickly for anyone else to see. I may have seen the impossible, and it still haunts me. I woke up, not from sleep, but from reality itself. Back home, a place where trees whispered secrets older than time. Visitors came, but never stayed long enough to understand what lived here. My visits were short, but each left a mark no one could explain. There were 3 stories, but only one held my nightmares. The backyard woods. My grandparents went to bed early, usually before 9. My parents told me it was rude to stay up past them. So I'd stay in my room after they said goodnight, reading with a flashlight or playing Game Boy. The first summer passed without incident, but the second, that's when things changed. One of the first nights I was reading in bed and heard footsteps on the attic stairs. I watched as the door handle turned and pushed open about 6 inches. I shut off my light and pretended to be asleep. Thought it was Grandma checking on me, worried she'd get mad if she found out I was awake. When I opened them, the person was gone. I convinced myself it had just been a dream. The next morning, when I woke up, my closet door was open, even though I knew it had been shut the night before. That made me doubt whether I'd truly been asleep. Started suspecting Grandma was watching me while I slept. Stupid, maybe. But it made sense to me. Elderly people don't always have control over their minds. She laughed and said, "It is impossible to get Grandma out of bed after she falls asleep." Said I had an active imagination, that old houses were creepy. Francisco never complained, she said. Made me feel like maybe I was just imagining things. The next summer, same thing happened. Never saw Grandma's face, but knew it was her. Started going to sleep earlier just to reduce the risk of being awake for something creepy. Years passed. My parents stopped sending me to the farm after a certain age, and part of me was relieved. My grandparents passed away when I was in college in mere weeks of each other. The funeral was depressing as hell. Had to talk with relatives I hadn't seen in years. Didn't enjoy that one bit. One such relative, Francisco. We were around the same age, but had nothing in common except our shared time at the farm. Told him everything, the footsteps, the figure, the closet door. My theory that it was Grandma. Expected him to laugh or maybe agree with me. Wrong. Blank expression said, "That's nothing. That thing used to touch me." He felt the mattress sink down like it was sitting there. Felt fingers on his face tracing his features, sometimes grabbed his wrist and held it. He kept his eyes shut until it left. Asked how he knew it wasn't one of our grandparents, said, "It had rough, scratchy hands, not either of ours." Looked at him in shock. Why would he keep something like that to himself? Asked why, and he said, he told his mom about it several times. She didn't believe him, got mad when he complained, so he stopped talking. Hearing him say that, terrifying. The narrator's fear was confirmed, and now it is even worse. She stopped talking about it with Francisco after that. Francisco and she both tried to bury it, their childhood nightmare. But if it wasn't Grandma, then what was it? Was it worse, knowing it was someone who lived there for years unseen? She doesn't know which part terrifies her more, the creature or the human. She remembers the house, narrow, tall, and tight, between two identical buildings. Her room faced directly across. For a long while, nothing. Then someone appeared. She waved back, then stepped out, but not before they began their daily ritual. They played, drawing, guessing, showing homework, always at 3:30 p.m., never opening the other's window. She thought perhaps they had strict parents, so no windows open. But still, she came every day. She told Mom. Mom thought maybe it was a granddaughter visiting, but that made the narrator sad. She felt sadness, thinking the girl might vanish, but then she never did. She was always there, at 3:30 p.m., like a clock ticking. Until one night, she woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of tapping, and when she walked over at her window, strange because I never saw her at any other time except right after school, not smiling like usual, pointed down at something I couldn't see and put her hands together like she was begging. Didn't know what she wanted, but started to scare me. Crawled back into bed. The tapping continued for a few minutes, then stopped. 3 days later, no sign of her. Thought I'd upset her by ignoring her that night. Then stepped back and I saw something that made me freak out. A dark stain on her yellow sweater, like paint or mud. Ran to my parents' room, almost crying. Dad ran to check, but light was off and girl gone. The next afternoon, she didn't show up. I climbed over the fence to see Mrs. Murphy in her garden. Smiled and waved, and she looked happy to see me, even though we'd never met. She stopped smiling. Sat down with her watering can, walked closer to the fence. The way she stopped smiling so abruptly scared me. Asked what this little girl looked like. Described her dark hair, yellow sweater, never opened window. Mrs. Murphy told me to go back inside. Mom told me I couldn't play the waving game anymore. Asked why. Just said, "You're too old for imaginary friends." Told her she wasn't imaginary, that I'd seen her for months. She repeated, "You can't go to the window anymore," confused and hurt. No one explained anything. My friend was gone, never appeared again. My parents acted like I'd done something wrong by just going to the window in the first place. We moved a year later. It wasn't until high school that my mom finally explained things to me, or rather, what Mrs. Murphy had told her. Apparently, the previous owners had a daughter named Jenna, 11, when she was hit by a car right in front of the house, right after school, wearing a yellow sweater on that fateful day. Family moved out shortly after, when the Murphys bought the house. Tried to use that third-floor room, but ended up sealing it completely after things kept happening. Mom didn't elaborate much. I don't think she knew herself. Just said Mrs. Murphy had always been very spiritual. I'm 34 now. Live in a house with no windows facing other buildings, not by accident. Developed a phobia for windows and reflective surfaces too. Had a couple of dreams about that girl over the years. Not bad ones. Never see her with the stain on her sweater, like that one night. But she doesn't smile in my dreams like she used to. This will forever be one of those freaky experiences that just don't have an explanation.